This show is opening up this week, um, and it. uh, I really didn't know much about her work aside from the Michelle Obama portrait and Breonna Taylor, and so I really didn't quite know what to expect, and I was pleasantly illuminated by the work. I'm going to read you some of the stuff that they say on the first page of the Whitney there. Amy Sherald is a storyteller. She creates precisely crafted narratives of American life, selecting, styling, photographing her sitters as the foundation of her nuanced paintings. Thus, Sherald bases her works on specific people. They are more than traditional portraits. They center everyday Black Americans, compelling in their individuality and extraordinary in their ordinariness, inviting viewers to step into Cheryl's imagined worlds. In the exhibition, paintings of such ordinary Americans joined her iconic portraits of Michelle Obama and Breonna Taylor. Um, Cheryl makes images she wants to see in the world. Although she considers herself the inheritor of the American realist tradition of artists such as Edward Hopper, a genre that was central to the Whitney's origins nearly a century ago. Those artists focused on the lives of everyday white Americans. Instead, Cheryl privileges a population that has historically been omitted from art history and the wider visual representation. By doing so, she challenges us to think more broadly about American realism, suggesting that an additional lineage for it, one born of the of art departments and galleries of historically Black colleges and universities, where where she first trained as an artist, and one that includes such under-recognized figures as William H. Johnson, Archibald Motley, among others. Across Amy Sherald's American Sublime, Sherald's contemplative subjects appear most concerned with their own interiority, prioritizing their own peace and self realization over how others might perceive them and the shackles of history, though they are inevitably impacted by both. Her audacious project highlights what she called the wonder of what it is to be a Black American, rendering a rich and unconstrained Black world in vibrant technicolor. Okay, so there you have what they have to say about it. Now I'll pipe in. Um, well, basically, she was born in Columbus, Georgia, um, and is now based in New York. She documents contemporary African life experiences in America through arresting, intimate portraits. Um, so basically, photography figures very highly into her work. She poses her figures and works from photographs, not directly from life. Um, So I will return to this, and I'll also return to the Michelle Obama image. I'm not going to talk too much about it because we've all seen this. I want to move on to Sherald engages with the history of photography and portraiture, inviting viewers to participate in a more complex debate about accepting accepted notions of race and representation to situate Black life in American art. She received her MFA from um, Maryland Institute of Art and BA from Clark at Atlanta, Atlanta University. Cheryl was the first woman and the first African American to ever receive the grand prize for portraiture at the National Portrait Gallery in DC. Um, it says that she received it in 2017. I thought it was 2016, but anyway. All right, so here she is. Okay. Sherald's economic status before her commission for Obama's portrait is important to talk about as it mirrors the origins of so many artists. Many celebrated contemporary artists have juggled minimum wage jobs, sporadic income, and burdens of life while managing to keep making art. Crucially, Sherald's is not a simple rags to riches tale, but one that illuminates the network of support from gas money to grants to ultimately a life altering commission. As Sherald herself said, being an artist is not easy. It's feast or famine. This is partly because artists make work before its value is established and often watch from the sidelines as collectors receive the full upside of the secondary sales and a financial gain that is fueled in part by the artist's continued career trajectories. And I thought this image of the welfare queen was perfect for this conversation. Basically, at that time in 2012, she was, basically working as a waitress 4 days a week so that she could get 3 days to paint in. Um, and she literally, when she did successfully get into the competition at the National Gallery, she had to borrow gas money to drive the painting down to DC to get it into the show. Um, so it's interesting. I mean, she worked as a waitress till she was 37 years old, for crying out loud. So she's now 51. Um, okay. Ah, where is she? Okay. Um, so there's this great kind of color pops that happen with this yellow dress and the magenta pink background. It's the strawberries and green stems on this. Um, let's see. I got some other stuff here for this one. Well, what I want to say is Cheryl came up through a unique kind of style, came up with a unique kind of stylized realism in her portraits, showing the subject in a grayscale skin against a monochrome background, which, according to Sherald, shifts the viewer's focus away from the subject's skin tone or skin color, contrasting the gray. She uses strategically placed vibrant colors in their clothing, accessories, um, and we're focused more on the subject's personality, um, and idiosyncrasies. Whereas the history of portraiture has belonged to the white elites, um, Sherald makes images of contemporary Black people in in this striking, relatable manner. Let me see if I can find. I had some stuff written up about this particular painting, but I'm not seeing it now, so it doesn't matter. Um, one of the things about this one is there's kind of a nonchalance to the look on her face. I mean, she's just kind of hanging out there with us. Okay. Here we go. Miss Everything. Um, Unsuppressed Deliverance. So this piece was painted in 2014. It is the one that she got into the National Portrait Gallery, the one that she had to borrow gas money to drive down there. Um, Cheryl chose to portray this young, gorgeous, and refined African American woman in a polka dot skirt, while underscoring the idea of race. Cheryl also captures the quintessence of the woman, her beauty, elegance, and sophistication, by creating this dreamlike world as she sips a cup, as she sips from a giant teacup. Um, so again, this was when she got this piece, and she won the first prize for this piece. And look at there's this kind of surreal quality to this giant teacup that she's holding. Uh, Self-possessed. Now these backgrounds are really interesting too. They're very abstract. You know, um, from my understanding, the underpaintings underneath all these are started off with a bright naphthol red, which is actually close to the color of the hat that Miss Everything is wearing. Um, and then she'll cover that with uh, a ground color, and actually you see all those splotches in the background. Those are from her dripping um, turpentine onto the surface to get that kind of textured background. Now let me see. It's everything. I know I've got more on her. Okay. This painting brought Cheryl that this big prize. Cheryl creates innovative, dynamic portraits that, through color and form, confront the psychological effects of stereotypical imagery in African American subjects. It's a very realistic painting in one way, and yet the details are all quite surreal. The figure is very self-possessed and confident. Um, According to Sherald, the painting was inspired by Alice in Wonderland, particularly the dress and the inclusion of the teacup. Ah, okay. I wanted to address again. I brought this Friedrich in. It is no mistake that this show is called American Sublime. And again, if you were with me when I went over Friedrich, this business of sublime is has multiple meanings. It means awesome. It means overwhelming. It means to be um, absorbed into nature in a way. Um, where Friedrich's figures look off into nature, Amy Sherald's figures look back at us, her American sublime. Uh, so we'll explore this a little bit more. I consider myself an American realist. For me, it means recognizing my Americanness first and wanting the work to join the greater ongoing conversation. Edward Hopper or Andy Wyeth, they're they're telling these American stories. I'm also telling American stories. And again, if you guys have any questions, just pipe in because there's a lot more information that I have at my fingertips than I can get to. So let's see. Uh, so looking at these two black men, um, and they're just here. Um, Now, she early in her career would just kind of walk up to people if she found them in the train stations or on the street or in a cafe when a coffee house or something like that, and she'd go and ask them if they would sit for her if she found them intriguing. Um, Nowadays she actually uses a casting company to get her models, but she has this huge collection of wardrobes that she has. Uh, so looking at the the titles of these pieces is informative because she spends a lot of time thinking about it. So innocent you, innocent me. Okay. Now, Barclay Hendrick um, is an artist who influenced Sherald. Um, she actually first saw his work um, in a museum when she was young. And it was the first, actually, many of his pieces are very large scale pieces. And she was blown away by it when she saw them. She thought to herself, "This is what I want to paint." Uh, and so Barclay Hendricks was a contemporary painter who made pioneering contributions to Black portraiture and conceptualism, while he worked in a variety of media and genres throughout his career. Hendricks is best known best known work took the form of life-sized painted oil portraits of Black Americans. So, you see the scale of this. This is, 50 by 72, the central one. Um, and then, the Superman routine. Um, really terrific. I had really I'd seen some of his work somewhere along the line, but these are, very well developed realist portraits. Um, oh, wait a minute. Okay. Um, what's precious inside him does not care to be known by the mind in ways that diminish its presence. All American. Pilgrimage of the Chameleon. So, kind of really look at these faces, look at these guys. You know, the very straightforward, iconic images. Now, another one of her heroes is Alice Neal, who um, basically I did a talk on her a while back when there was the big show on at the Met. Um, and if you look at these two images next to each other, the kind of anxiety in Nancy and Olivia, um, actually her, I guess it's her daughter-in-law and grandchild. Um, but the difference between these two, the stability, the serenity of the mother and child by Sherald, really interesting. I love that funky hat. You know, all she pares down the 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 clothing. What's in the portrait is endowed with certain kinds of force just because they've been chosen to be present. So I love the contrast between these two. But one of the things about Alice Neal is this business of ordinary people, of of you know, folks, warts and all, uh, where there's an idealization of the figures that Cheryl is presenting, which is really interesting too. Oh, okay, and Jordan Castile was another person who I've covered in the past. Um, is a good friend to Amy Sherald. They've been friends for a long time. Jordan Castile is very, very well known. Very, she's in all the collections. She was, had a show devoted to her work a couple of years ago. Um, I I love the balloonness of these two figures. It's almost like there's that otherworldliness that comes out in Cheryl's work, with them being the gray tone, the Griselle. Now, another thing about the Griselle is it's a very traditional approach. In fact, she started painting these using the Grizel technique, which is an old master's technique. You paint tonally, gray, black, and white, you know, and then apply the color over the top of that. Well, she's eliminated the color because the impact of paring it down to the grays gives you a much more attention to what the expression is on the face of the character rather than being distracted by trying to figure out the color. Um, Freeing herself was one thing. Taking ownership of that freed self was another. And now we have Boy with Big Fish. So, uh, so really, there's this tiny fish there. But there's this stillness in this character, you know, in the boy with the big fish. That's really, kind of very um peaceful in a way, mysterious. Um, and then you see it contrasted with Alice Neal, with Georgie with the knife, uh, and then below is Jordan Castile. Um, Again, laid back, but a very different kind of narrative. The interrelationship between these two is a very different feel from what's going on in the mysterious character of this boy with the big fish. You go from street life to something else. Okay, the bathers. So they're kind of here floating in this turquoise field of color. Uh, Again, self-possessed. Um, there's this sense of intimacy, and I really love this piece, and I'm gonna focus in on them and these delightful portraits of these two young women, beautifully rendered, relaxed. Um, there's this intimacy of them holding hands. And again, look at the colors, the polka dot, orange and white, and then the yellow suit and that violet hat. Um, yes, parallels to Kehinde Wiley, um, very similar subjects, but very different backgrounds and very different in many ways. That's a really good question. I didn't put any of his work in. His work is so over the top, jammed full of stuff, and her stuff is pared down to these minimal elements. And there's also the oh, harkening back to the history. Um, Again, we have Manet and the luncheon on the grass, which was a shocking painting back in the day when it was done. That these two fully clothed men and two naked women having luncheon on the grass, and the fact that they are gazing out at us. That's another parallel to Sherald, because that gaze is always there. But this business of the bather as a subject, the Cézanne, and Faith Ringgold. Uh, I just wanted to, put this in context. But and it's not that um, Amy wasn't aware of all this. There's implications in a lot of these pieces that have historic parallels. Okay, Kingdom. Um, I I really love when she kind of locates these figures in the landscape, and that's something relatively recent. The planes, rockets, and spaces in between um, is from 2018, uh, and then the Kingdom is 2022. Um, they're large scale, 100 inches tall for the planes and rockets, Kingdom is 117 by 92. So these are very substantial paintings as far as scale is concerned. Again, though, look at them; they are just pared down. This subtle um, gradient changes in color and things like that, but very few colors. Really, you know, a wonderful colorist. A bucket full of treasures. Papa gave me sunshine to put in my pockets. Depicts a young man in a distinctive Cabana shirt with lobster and sunburst graphics, portraying a sense of confidence and self-assuredness. Um, the title and the image itself, with its lobster and sunburst, evoke the sense of joy, a memory of beach vacation. This young man is fully present, cool, hip, self assured, commanding the space. Really, each individual, they are very, it's the same formula that she is using, but there is a presence in these figures which is very compelling. Oh, okay. For love and country. um, so this one, let's see. Yeah, historical hysterical rewrite. Again, we've got this, the smooch on Times Square, but this time it's two young black men. Um, Notice that the fellow with the hat on has a set of pearls on with a little cross dangling. Um, Down in the lower right, you see Amy up on scaffold working on the painting. So you get an idea of the scale. Now it's 123 by 93 inches. So you get some idea of what that scale means when you look at the size of her up against it. And we're going to go on to this. Ah, okay. And this is a really interesting piece. Um, One of the things that I wanted to do is talk about Amy in fashion. She has this, as I said, she has this huge costume collection. And sometimes she actually looks for people to fit the costumes. Um, Her models, for the most part, you know, are kind of in a parallel universe. This kind of high society. The Madam X piece, really, John Singer Sargent painted all these high society white women. Madam X was a scandalous painting when it was painted. And in fact, the chain that holds the dress up was added later. So you can imagine how provocative that was at that time in 1884. Well, um, here's Amy sitting before her finished piece, um, in her own sexy costume, um, high fashion, all that's there, um, and really interesting, parallels the elegance of the of the high society fashion look. Ah, and here she is working on one of the legs in that painting. Um, Notice the image in the computer back there. So basically, she does all these shots, and then she can use the computer to focus on different parts when she's working in different areas of the painting. Uh, and again, focus on the social status, the um, the represent that are represented by the clothing. Um, Mama has made the bread, that how things are measured. She's wearing the mink, she's wearing the gold, she's got the bling. Um, and you look at this sergeant, in this very elegant costume dress. Really interesting. A clear, unspoken, granted magic. All things bright and beautiful. And look at the color of that dress and that yellow background. You can't help but smile a bit. Um, Interestingly enough, you can see it especially in this one, but Cheryl used a kind of a Naples yellow, that's kind of it's a particular brand of Naples yellow that's very white, um, that she mixes with her blacks to get her the gray tones that she uses. It's less pasty. If you use white with black paint, it kind of can get to be a little bit harsh, and this gives it it's a little gentler, to use um, a, a a tone, a tinting, um, uh, color. Again, Midsummer Afternoon Dream. She's a brilliant colorist. Um, I just love this business where she's, setting, I love the ones that are, the settings in the landscape. So, um, where Hopper is turned away, she's in her own world. Precious Jewel, um, there's they're with us, they're with each other. Um, there's an engagement with us as a viewer where Hopper is very internal, isolated. Oh, Bo Bartlett, another um, of her acknowledged influences. She really loves his work, and he's another uh, Southern painter that she was familiar with coming up. And let's see. Yeah, he's an American realist with a modernist vision. His paintings are well within the tradition of American realism as defined by artists such as Eakins and Wyeth. Um, like these artists, Bartlett looked at America's heart, its land, its people, and describes the beauty he finds in everyday life. His paintings celebrate the underlying epic nature of the commonplace. Oh, okay. So there's a kind of pride in uh, God bless this land. Um, and again, we go to Hopper, and there's a kind of isolated sense of being resigned to the fate in a way. Uh, so the Sherald piece, this man is really comfortable in his body. He's really comfortable with himself. Uh, it's very classic, almost harkening back to, um, very traditional um, mounting a steed or a carriage in more traditional terms. Um, let's see, large scale piece too, 130 inches. Ah, if you surrendered to the air, you could ride it. Again, this is in looking at this piece. It brings you back to the WPA from the 30s when there were all these shots of these guys up on the high rises welding and working the girders in the skyscrapers going up. And look at the color. I mean, we got, what is it, four colors? But they sing very abstract in her use of shape and form. Beautiful quality to that too. Oh, okay. Four ways of being. brings four portraits by the artist, some never before seen in New York, and explores the intersection of past, present, and future. Each painting captures a distinct way of existing in the world. Here she reimagines her subjects from diverse backgrounds and generations, coexisting in the shared moment, inviting the viewer to contemplate the fluidity of time and the complex ways our histories shape our understanding of ourselves. And this piece is actually mounted outside the Whitney. You can see on the left where they're actually putting it up. The bucket is out there putting up the banners. Okay. To tell her story, you must walk in her shoes. And then she's got this sweatshirt on with the legs. Really funny. She's just funny. Um, so again, there's this um, uh, Alex Katz um, used these solid backgrounds. It's very much something that's a parallel between the two of them, and you know, there's also this high society kind of background where Katz has done all these portraits of celebrities, and Sherald is doing these everyday people, aside from in certain cases like Michelle Obama. Okay. This image of two figures on dirt bikes in midair is inspired by Baltimore's bike culture, referencing freedom and the sense of uplifting the everyday experience of Black communities, freedom, defiance, and the sense of being suspended in time, in space, free from oppression. Sherald appropriates the style of lofty equestrian portraits traditionally used to depict elite white sitters to glorify the bike culture of her chosen home, referencing a sense of uplifting the every the everyday experiences. Really a kick. They're big too. This is like 108 tall by 266 inches. So that's like, over 20 feet. Okay. And then we have the Brienne. Um, yeah, we're we're running low on time, so I'm gonna try and push forward a bit. Um, Cheryl received a commission to paint the portrait of Breonna Taylor, um, which was featured on the Vanity Fair cover. Um, Taylor was 26-year-old. Yeah, you know the whole story. She was a 26-year-old medical worker who was fatally shot in Louisville um, when police officers raided the apartment by mistake, and 30 shots um, were fired into her apartment. Um, so in this portrait, she depicts Taylor in her trademark style. Um, Taylor's skin is rendered gray, looking straight at the viewer. The vibrant turquoise dress actually took a lot of work for her to get to. She said that she had painted it in with a turquoise but it wasn't the right turquoise, and she had to repaint it a number of times. Another thing that she does is she starts out with the face. She starts out with the head in all these paintings. And she said, if I don't get the head right, I don't, I can't move on to the rest of the body, because she more or less draws them in, blocks them in, but it's really the face that she starts with. Um, she captures both the joy and the pain of the moment. Um, she communicated with the family, with Breonna Taylor's mother, um, who was the one that gave her the photograph that she worked from. And there was a one of the things in the conversation was that sense of joyfulness in Breonna Taylor as a person. Um, okay, and we're going to move on and finish up with Michelle Obama. Let's see what I've got on her. Yeah. So this iconic paintings was Cheryl's first commission. Actually, previously she had chosen all of her subjects. Obama placed against this clean light blue background, sitting comfortably with one knee raised. Um, the flowing dress, uh, minimal but striking color of the geometric patterns in the dress. So that her winning this actual um, commission was something that uh, was a real shock for Amy. And if you're really interested in hearing about it, there's a bunch of YouTubes with her talking about it, and she's got great anecdotes of going to meet um, President Obama and Michelle, and the interview that they had. Well worth a listen, not too long. Um, and yeah, this controversy over the Griselle, over the gray, and how much does this really look like Michelle Obama and all that stuff. Well, it's a great portrait. Some people like poetry to rhyme, and other people don't. Um, so there are viewers who hated this portrait because it was gray. Well, okay. All right. I'm going to finish up with, oh, here we are. Amy Sherald, American Sublime. It opened this week. Um, and you see down below Amy on her rolling scaffold in front of this big painting, which was completed in 2024 and is included in the exhibition. Um, so I hope you guys enjoyed this. If there's any questions, you can throw them in the chat to me. But I recommend this show and think it is well worth a trip down to the Whitney to see it. So I will see you again, hopefully in 2 weeks.